Hello! Today's video is all about triplet finger picking. We're going to learn the technique using something called a 3-finger roll and a variation to that, as well as 3 different etudes that have this beautiful Spanish-inspired melody to be able to incorporate it into your practice routine. If you want to check out the strumming and the 3 etudes that go with that, check out this video. But otherwise, let's go ahead and learn how to finger triplet picking on the ukulele. Let's dive into just the technique to start. I'm going to bring my video in super close on my ukulele here. We're going to start by just playing open on the string. So you see I'm not fretting anything. I'm going to start here with my thumb on my C string, which is the second from the top there. And the position of this is going to be right where the fretboard and front of the sound hole kind of connect, right in this area here. I'm going to put it about a 45-degree angle, just like so. I'm going to play that string by just moving the finger down, trying to keep this knuckle right here relaxed so that I kind of follow through using the meat of the hand here, so it looks something like this. After I can do that comfortably, I'm going to do the next piece of it, which is taking my middle finger on my playing hand and striking the A string, which is the one closest to the ground, and I'm going to have that a little bit offset with the thumb at about a perpendicular angle. Try and keep that middle finger more straight up and down. I'm going to practice striking that just like so. A little trick with that is try to not hook the string and pull out. That gives a really brash tone. Instead, have a little bit of give as the finger comes up and out, and that creates a really nice tone. So I'm going to do the thumb on the C, then the middle on the A. And finally, I'm going to take this index finger here. I'm going to pluck it here on the E string, which is the one splitting the difference. Same deal where I'm going to be more perpendicular to the string with my index finger. Going to have it kind of wedged between the middle and thumb, just like this, and pluck that string as it is. So the 3 individual movements are going to be my thumb on the C, my middle on the A, and then my index on the E. And we want to practice this and counting to 3 because this is a triplet, as the name of this video suggests, to get really comfortable with that sense of triplets. So it's going to look and sound something like this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, if it's more comfortable for you, you can actually take your pinky on your playing hand here and you can stick it on the ukulele as what we call an anchor. That just gives you a good guidance point and to give your hand a good idea of where it's at. I like to use an anchor with this technique, and then with the anchor, it looks like this. C, A, E, C, A, E, C, A, E. Thumb, middle, index, thumb, middle, index. Now we want to make sure the timing of this is a triplet, so we don't want to do this. Because we want each one to roll into each other with the same duration, and we want it to restart with that same duration. That sounds kind of confusing, but what that means is we're going to go C, A, E, right back to C, A, E. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, continuously rolling. Now, as you get comfortable with that, you're going to then want to introduce the thumb to have a variation going to the G string. The index and middle fingers stay right where they are, still on the E and the A strings, but the thumb is going to alternate now between the G and the C. We're still going to be playing the same combination of fingers. It's just now going to go thumb on the C, then A and E, then the thumb on the G, then the A, then the E. So the thumb just kind of walks back and forth. And this is what makes it tricky. But this is what makes it the 3-finger roll, alternating back and forth. C, A, E, G, A, E. C, A, E, G, A, E. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This is a fantastic technique to start working up speed, and you don't even need to play a chord like we're doing here to start feeling how this technique can be used. It sounds great slow, also fast. But let's go ahead and dive into something that's a little bit more substantial to play with this. Using this technique, zooming my camera out just a little bit, it's going to look something like this. We're going to play 2 different chords. The first bar, we're going to play what's called an A7 sus4. Really simple chord. Just take your middle finger, place it here on the 2nd fret of the C string. And we're going to do our 3-finger roll across this 2 rotations. What that means is we're going to play C, A, E, and then G, A, E, and C, A, E, and G, A, E, but without the interruptions. So that should sound something like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, After we've done that, we're then going to go on to this A7 chord. To play that, add the index finger on the first fret of the C string and then take the middle finger off. And we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to go C, A, E, G, A, E, C, A, E, G, A, E. So 2 full rotations of the thumb going back and forth. So altogether, these first 2 bars are a really fantastic resource to work on this technique, and it sounds really cool. It sounds something like this. I'm going to play it a few times. Feel free to join in. C. Again there. And that is our 3-finger roll and the first half of this etude. What we're going to do from here is we're going to introduce a variation, which looks something like this. Now the finger movements are the same. We're still going thumb, middle, index. We're doing that the whole way through on all of these exercises. It's just now we're going to double up on a string sometimes. So what we do is we play our same A7 sus4, that 2 on the C string. We're going to play the C string, then the A string, then the E string. Then we're going to play the G string, A string, E string. So far this is exactly the same. But now instead of going back to the C string with the thumb, we're going to stay at the G with the thumb and do that another time. And then we're going to play the C, A, E. So instead of going back and forth each time, we do the C, G, G, C. And what's so cool about that is when we go to the A7 chord, we do the same thing. C, G, G, C. And when we repeat this, it sounds like it doubles up on each string. C, A, E, G, A, E, G, A, E, C, A, E, C, A, E, G, A, E, G, A, E, C, A, E. This makes for a really confusing thing if you've never played this before. And it's likely if you've never done this technique, you're feeling very overwhelmed at this video right now. That's totally fine. Make sure you pause and practice these individually nice and slow. These variations create these really nice sounds. And so if we look at this combined now, here's the 3-finger roll and the 3-finger roll variation, which creates this first etude. Just these 2 chords, just 1 finger on the strings at a time. But it sounds something like this when you play it all the way through. You notice I can kind of speed up and slow down a bit as I go to create these awesome sounds. And so that's your first etude. Let's go and take a look at the second etude. Now what's cool about this is it's the same technique. We're not going to be learning anything new now with triplet picking. We're instead going to just be learning some cool left-hand parts to add some spice and variation to it, as well as some challenge for how that right-hand picking pattern works through. We're going to start here with this beautiful G minor add 9 chord. To play this, index finger on the 2nd fret of the C string, middle finger on the 3rd fret of the G string, and ring finger here on the 3rd fret of the E string. Now we're going to do our variation to the 3-finger roll on here. So what that means is we're going to go C, A, E, G, A, E, G, A, E, C, A, E. So if you haven't worked through that first part, this is a lot to look at. But if you work through that, it's the same right-hand parts that you've already been playing, which is really cool. We go on to measure 6 here with the C13 chord. Really straightforward. We play the exact same thing we did just a moment ago, but we take our index finger off of the C string with our fretting hand, and we do exactly the same pattern. It's exactly the same. And here's what's cool is the next chord here on the D7, all that you do is take these 2 fingers and slide them down 1 fret. So instead of being on 3 on the G and 3 on the E, you're now on 2 of the G and 2 of the C, or excuse me, 2 of the E, leaving your C string still open and your A string still open. And you do the same exact pattern you did a moment ago. You'll notice that if you're playing a low G, this sounds very different than my high G, but still really rich. In fact, it works completely with high G and low G tunings. But on these chords, you really start to hear the difference. So those 3 measures, the G minor add 9, the C13, and the D7 are all the same pattern, which is our 3-finger roll variation, and they sound something like this. And then when we go on to our next part here, It's going to be our 3-finger roll, first on the A7 sus4, which we already learned. That's 2 on the C string. We're going to do C, A, E, G, A, E. And then halfway through, we switch to this A7 chord, the 1 on the C string, and do a C, A, E, G, A, E. So they each get 1 rotation of our standard 3-finger roll. So when you put this whole thing together, you end up with this second triplet picking etude, and it sounds something like this. You'll notice I like to kind of speed up and slow down as I go through, makes it more of that romantic Spanish type of sound, but it sounds like this. And you can kind of repeat it and do whatever you like with it. Pretty nice. From here we go on to now our last triplet picking etude, the third one. This one's a little bit more challenging with some more chords added. And unlike the previous one that for the most part would either do the variation or the roll each bar, this one likes to switch mid-bar at times, making it a little bit more challenging. We're going to start here with our F add 9, one of my favorite chords on the ukulele, just the index finger here on the first fret of the E string. We're going to pluck our C, A, E, G, A, E. So that's a standard triplet 3-finger roll. But then we're going to switch it up here, because what we're going to do is we're going to go to this B flat major 7, which is going to be 3 with the ring finger on the G string, 2 on the C with the middle finger, and keep that 1 with the index on the E string. And we're going to play the G, A, E, C, A, E. So G, A, E, C, A, E. Going into the next measure here on 10, we're going to slide this up for the C6. So slide up 2 frets. So it's 5, 4, 3, 0 with your ring, middle, index. Same shape, just moved up. We're going to play our G, A, E, C, A, E. So it's 1 rotation of the roll, but this time starting on the G string instead. Then for the second half of this bar, we're going to slide it back down 2 frets, that B flat major 7, play our G, A, E, C, A, E. So this measure is kind of interesting because it's just starting with the G instead of the C with the thumb, but maintaining that same pattern. So let's go ahead and hear these 2 measures together before we go on to 11. 9 and 10 should sound something like this. Going into measures 11 and 12 here to wrap up this etude, we're going to go to an A chord, but we're going to do it a little differently than you might normally. Go ahead and look at this B flat major 7 we've got. You're going to just slide it down 1 fret. See, the index finger comes off the ukulele. 2 with the G on the ring finger and 1 on the C with the middle finger. This isn't how you usually play an A chord, but it makes it easier as you're switching up and down with these. We're going to play our G, A, E, C, A, E. So it's a pretty standard roll starting on the G string. Then we're going to go to this wonderful B flat major 7 flat 5 chord. All that you do here is take these 2 fingers and move them up 1 fret. That's all there is to it. And from this, you're going to play the 2 on the C string to start, and then open A, E, G, A, E. So it's the same roll, but now we're starting on the C string and going to the G. That makes this measure very interesting because it goes G, A, E, C, A, E, C, A, E, G, A, E with movement. Again, as I mentioned before, this one's just trying to confuse you with what ordering you're playing the finger picking, and that's what makes it so much fun to work on. And then we go into measure 12. We're going to slide these 2 fingers up 2 more frets. So it's at 5 on the G with the middle, 4 on the C with the middle, or excuse me, 5 on the G with the ring finger, 4 on the C with the middle finger. And then the index finger is going to come over here to the 3rd fret of the E string. And we're going to play the C, A, E, G, A, E, and then 1 more G, A, E for that, before we finally finish this by plucking our G, E, and A strings all together. But before we pluck the G, we want to move that middle finger up to fret 6, or that ring finger, excuse me, up to fret 6, and pluck our G, A, and G, E, and A strings all together to finish that off. Now, measures 11 and 12, quite tricky. I'm going to play them a couple times nice and slow. They should look something like this. One more time with that 11 and 12. Oops, say I made a mistake. What was that mistake I made? Well, I moved up to the C6 and I didn't get that finger in time, and then I forgot, oh, which finger do I play? You're very likely going to experience the same thing because there's so much going on. And that's why it's okay to break this up into different sets of triplets. For instance, you might be tempted to only do like measure 11, but measure 11, like every other measure in this, is going to be comprised of 4 sets of triplets. So what if you break it apart into different sets of triplets? If you're struggling going from measure 11 to 12, like I just did there, maybe you start halfway through 11 to go halfway through into 12. That way you can still focus on 4 triplets, but instead of it being the 4 triplets of 11 or the 4 triplets of 12, you can do the last 2 triplets of 11 and then the first 2 triplets of 12. That might end up sounding and looking something like this, which can sometimes make the practice easier. So I'm starting on the 2 of the C of the B flat major 7 flat 5. Wow, it's a mouthful, isn't it? But I'm going to do that last set of 4. And then I'm going to do the next set of 4 from the next measure. And that's a great way to work on this, to get comfortable with these pairs as you're going through, so that you work on 2 and 2 instead of always 4. But let's go ahead and hear that one more time, measures 11 and 12, with me playing it correctly now, fixing that mistake. And so that you can hear it, here's the entirety of the triplet picking etude number 3. And what's wonderful about this is you can mix and match these. You can go from number 1 to number 2 to number 3, or you can rinse and repeat any different way you want. And what's really magical is when you introduce the 3 strumming etudes, which again are linked in the video that you can see here. But just so that you can kind of hear it, I'm going to play a little bit of some of the triplet picking etude, and then I'll go into some of the triplet strumming etude, just so you can get kind of an idea. Pretty nice, right? I'm going to bring the camera back up to me. These 6 different etudes, the 3 finger picking ones that we just worked on here, and then the 3 strumming ones that you can check out in that other video, make for a really awesome practice routine to get comfortable with triplets. And even though these techniques are very different, one being strummed, one being finger picked, they are very cross-compatible to getting you a good feel for that triplet sense of rhythm, which for some people is really hard. I know, because it was really hard for me when I was first working with it. Now, this was actually voted on over at my Patreon page. If you'd like to download a tab that includes all 6 of these, be sure to check out the link down below. It was a really cool vote this month with a lot of different options, and this one ended up coming out. And I think it's because there's something about triplets that's just such a, I don't know, it's almost mysterious for the sound, and it's an absolutely beautiful way to practice your ukulele. So I hope that these Spanish-inspired melodies that I wrote for these etudes help you on your journey playing the ukulele. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. I try to answer every question I can. And also feel free to send me a message on Patreon. Thank you so much to all of my members there. I could not do these tutorials without your support. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys next time on the next video. Take it easy.